Namaste and welcome to your lecture of the week. Our teaching has to do with boundaries and how life is just made up of setting boundaries and offering permission. Oftentimes we can look at boundary setting as a chore, something that we don't want to do and that takes a lot of energy. And if that's you, I encourage you to keep listening. So this teaching was inspired by a recent experience I had. I was at Walmart. I'm there with my son and we finished stocking up the cart with all the goodies. And I thought, I should go look at the baby food section for him just to see. I was curious what they had as far as snacks type stuff. So I go to the baby food section and I'm literally in no rush, taking my sweet time, talking to Consti in like a playful voice, going through the aisle super slow. And a woman, there was someone else in the aisle, but obviously I wasn't really paying that much attention. Full blown in my own little world with Consti. And she turned around and started to apologize. Like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry I'm in your way. And I was like, oh, you're not. I realized that she's crying. And so I'm pulled out of my little world with my little guy and I'm genuinely concerned, like, are you okay? What's going on? And she's just apologizing. I'm so sorry. Look at me. I'm such a mess. I'm so sorry. I'm crying. I'm in your way. Oh my gosh. And I am reassuring her, A, you're not in my way. B, it's okay to cry. And C, are you okay? Please tell me if I can help you in some way. And she tells me that she's hiding because she was approached by a man on her way into the store and it made her very uncomfortable. And she tried to start to tell me exactly what happened and she couldn't even vocalize and retell the story of, well, he came up to me and then this, and she started basically shake and she felt so uncomfortable even reliving the experience by telling me it, that she shook it off and said, that's why I'm here, because I thought that the place to hide, that he wouldn't come to look for me, is in the baby section. And obviously my heart is just breaking. I think many of us can relate to the feeling of having our boundary violated. And I want to emphasize, we don't need to go into the details. What did he say? What did he do? Is her boundary appropriate? Did she overreact? Did she underreact? All of that, it doesn't matter. That's the other thing. She was like apologizing profusely for dropping the F-bomb in front of my son. And I'm like, I can assure you he's heard plenty of F-bombs at this point coming out of my own mouth. So please don't apologize. But there's a little laugh. Okay, but back to the point. We can all relate to having our boundary violated. And it doesn't matter if it's in a relationship, if it's a friendship, that sense of your boundary being violated, wow, it creates such an icky feeling inside of us, doesn't it? So I'm feeling for her in this moment, as you can imagine. I'm thinking of my own times that I've had my boundary violated and my response in that moment. Because here's what's important. She had this experience of having her boundary violated, and she is hiding in an aisle in a store and apologizing profusely to me for her reaction. And I thought, wow. That, putting myself in her shoes, detail's not important, but me having had the experience of a boundary being violated, I'm a crier. Like, my husband calls me waterworks. I'm not even a vocal crier. I just immediate tears come out of my face. And one of the things that I've really had to learn is to not apologize profusely for my reaction to something such as my boundary being violated, because I resonated with her. And this is something that I want to just slow down. And if you tuned out, tune back in. And let's just take a moment to acknowledge that for some of us, based on what has happened to us growing up, I don't want to go too much into justification, and this is what we're getting into. It's not a justification of why we should respond or react in the way that we do, but it's simply an acknowledgement that based on what is unfolded in our life, when our boundaries are violated, we are the ones who apologize for our reaction. And are you someone like that? Can you relate to that? I think that's a really important place to just pause and contemplate, because she was mirroring something that I know to be true for myself. None of us need to apologize for our experience, our inner experience of what unfolds in a moment, such as our boundaries being violated. But here's the fine tune of that, or the fine print of that. It is important for us to acknowledge what unfolds inside of us, but we do not need to affirm it. Affirm it in the sense of justification. We can acknowledge what arises, but when we affirm the churning of what happens within us, we can get caught up in the churning. And maybe that's the state that you have to be in, okay? In the very beginning, it's important for us to acknowledge and affirm, hey, it's okay for me to feel this way, and actually I need to affirm that my reaction is legit and is normal. But along this path, we're called to go a step further. Once we've affirmed ourselves, once we know it's okay to feel whatever we feel, it's time for us to also step aside from that, because that's a way that we can start to transcend the emotional waters. Otherwise, we can stay swimming or treading water in it for too long. And so the next step would be to acknowledge and then to respond. In that response, what do? We set a firm boundary. This is this second point to focus on. Wow, how many of us feel like setting boundaries, just even the thought of having that conversation, it's so exhausting. How many of us feel when we need to set a boundary that we go over it in our head over and over and over to try to understand or to try to find a way out from setting that boundary? Right? Because here's the point. We see setting a boundary as a chore. And just like a kid during summer who wants to go out and play, but mommy is like, no, you need to stay home and do your chore, we are miserable. We want to do anything other than our chores, anything other than setting that boundary. But this is a misconception, a misperception, because setting a boundary is a choice, not a chore, and it is a powerful choice that we must all reclaim. The problem is a lot of us associate boundaries, broken and setting boundaries, with that icky feeling within us. And just as much as we feel the need to apologize for our boundary being violated, we also feel the need to apologize for setting a boundary. Let's wash that clean, acknowledge that that is our authentic uprising within us, our authentic inner experience. Maybe you're at a stage where you need to affirm. That's okay that you feel that way. That's normal, all that. But the next step would be to transcend and to step aside and to set a boundary. I strongly encourage you to start to look at boundaries that you set in your life as a powerful choice, and to start to unravel that viewpoint of it being a chore. Because it is your birthright to say yes and give permission, and to say no and to set a boundary. And when you own these two things, no matter the circumstances that unfold, you will feel what? You will feel free and not trapped and not violated and not like you have to hide. It is a powerful choice, and I encourage you to use that choice wisely. I hope that this was helpful to you in some way. Drop a comment or send me a message. I always love to hear from you. And if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please reach out as well. With all my love, namaste.